it costs farmers of commercial grade coffee to produce a carga, about 650,000 pesos. Here's what we estimated that it costs to produce specialty coffee, which is now closer to the current cost of production for commercial coffee in Colombia, at least according to the FNC's recently concluded 3-year study. Most companies use this reference price as the basis for all of their purchases. Most of the bigger companies, multinationals with pseudo-specialty programs, will pay this same price or small premium varying from 30,000 to 60,000 pesos above it on average. Most specialty companies pay in increments of 50,000 to 150,000 above it in accordance with different quality ranges. For example, a coffee that cups out between 84 and 86 may be paid at the market price plus 100,000 pesos. A coffee that cups between 86 and 88 might be paid out at 200,000 pesos above it, and one that cups above 88 may be paid for at 300,000 pesos above, if not more. While as good as some of these prices may be when compared to the market price, they still don't provide farmers with consistent, foreseeable margins, making it hard, if not virtually impossible, to make plans for your farm. Who wants to make capital expenditures when they haven't figured out what their paycheck is going to be at the end of the year? In our case, we wanted to ask farmers to invest in quality, which is why we decided to pay them prices that took their cost of production into account and hopefully afforded them a more stable margin, though some costs such as labor and inputs do vary. We tried to put those margins and the income they most likely implied into context. We did deep dives at different price thresholds and discovered that you had to pay the average farmers a lot more than the market was affording them in order to make sure they were not just earning something above the local poverty line, but ideally above minimum wage. The problem was still size, though. The average farm didn't exceed 2 hectares. That being said, we noticed that as producers made reinvestments in their farms, and particularly in their total amount of arable land, they could drastically improve their income. At 5 hectares, the difference was threefold. We decided to share the prices we paid farmers with our clients and to take those prices as the basis of what we charged them. Depending on the exchange rate and what you paid your producers, it was pretty easy to figure out what your FOB prices would be. We wanted our clients to look at prices more holistically, accepting a range of possible FX scenarios in order to help us stabilize prices to producers. A lot of them were into it. Then we got a little bit more sophisticated about transparency and rolled out something we call dynamic pricing, allowing our customers to benefit from a range of different yields at the milling and sorting stage of the process. The exchange rates and prices to producers were still there. You just had to stand on your head to see them. Lastly, we prepared full transparency reports for clients that wanted to be able to break things down for one reason or another. This is usually the part of the presentation where people take pictures. Another thing people like to say at coffee and sustainability conferences a lot is that things are really complicated. That they change so much from region to region, from farm to farm and harvest to harvest, that it's virtually impossible to know what's really going on. This is a convenient argument, though, because if you don't know what to do, you can always fall back on the market. On the other hand, what if you could study cost of production together with productivity and then cross-reference them with price? What if you could create a pricing guide that took into account what farmers actually sell? Whether that's cargas of parchment traded in Colombian pesos or kilograms of cherry in Ethiopian birr. If you knew what your exporters' margins were, and they let you get involved in the determination of price at the farm level, could you not make better decisions about how you would buy your coffee? The same way you might with a moisture meter or a UV light? Just like World Coffee Research, can we not take a scientific, research-based approach to social and economic sustainability to ensure the future of coffee? What if, without having to meddle in your farmer's private finances, you were informed enough about the overall context of a region to be able to avoid paying poverty-perpetuating prices? What if you could pay a price that you knew was at least likely to provide the farmers you work with the equivalent of a minimum wage, or even something more so they can reinvest in their farms? And now, what if you could do this regionally on a regular basis? What would you do if you knew this? How would you buy your coffee in Colombia next year? Would it change? And if so, how would you explain that to your customers? And what about the companies that know this but don't do anything about it? How would they explain that to their customers? Thank you. What am I supposed to do? Yes, we're going to have a cupping. We're going to try coffees. There wasn't a clear way to relate the coffees on the cupping table to this, really. Only that we took farmers' costs of production into account when we determined the prices that we would pay the farmers whose coffees we're going to taste today. And once we taste them, we're going to cup them all blind and then reveal them later. I can explain a little bit about each one because there are some cool projects in there.
All right, so it's a Cropster cupping, as always. Anything we should think about when we get started, or it's just normal?
No, just go.
Just go.
There's a mixed bag of stuff on there.
Yeah, perfect. That's what we want. All right.